The more you try to fix everything, the more tired you become. And perhaps right now, as you listen to this, your body recognizes this phrase before your mind does. A discreet tightness in your chest, a sigh longer than usual, a silent feeling of, that's exactly it. Because there's an invisible conflict happening inside you. One part wants to rest, but another believes it can't. And this battle didn't begin today. It's been written for a long time, in small choices, in responsibilities assumed without realizing it, in silences swallowed to avoid conflict. The problem isn't a lack of effort. It never was. It's the excess of it. A constant, practical, almost automatic psychological effort to try to keep everything under control so that nothing goes wrong, neither outside nor inside. Perhaps you're not weak. Perhaps you're just tired of carrying things that were never yours. Emotions that don't belong to you, expectations you inherited, problems you took on out of love, fear, or habit. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from physical work or the external rush, but from a continuous mental state of vigilance, a conscious and unconscious tiredness at the same time. You wake up already thinking. You sleep without switching off. Your brain operates in elegant survival mode. It seems functional, productive, responsible, but inside it's always on alert, always anticipating the future, always simulating scenarios, always trying to avoid pain before it exists. This is the exhaustion of someone who wants to control everything, a control that is rarely explicit, but deeply psychological. You try to solve everyone's problems, even when no one asked. You feel that if you don't do something, something bad will happen. So you anticipate conversations, calculate reactions, avoid mistakes, avoid conflicts, avoid disappointments. Not out of drama, but out of awareness, or what you believe to be awareness. But this state of constant readiness exacts a silent price. The body never rests, even when still. Physical rest happens, but mental rest doesn't. The mind continues working, organizing, protecting, sustaining. It's a practical exhaustion, but also a philosophical one. The idea that you need to be useful to deserve peace. There's something almost poetic and tragic about this. Deeply responsible people often feel guilty when they stop, as if resting were a moral failing, as if relaxing meant abandoning someone, failing at something, losing value. Little by little, without realizing it, personal worth begins to be confused with usefulness. If I don't do it, who will? If I let go, everything falls apart. And so a silent pact with burnout is born. An aesthetic pact even. You seem strong, centered, functional, but inside something is becoming dry, too minimalist, too restrained, too alive. It's not life that's heavy, it's the control you think you need to have over it. This phrase hurts because it dismantles an entire narrative, because it suggests that perhaps the weight isn't in the world, but in how you position yourself in relation to it. And this isn't an accusation, it's an invitation to awareness, a psychological and philosophical invitation to observe, gently, where this need to hold on to everything comes from. Where does this belief come from that if you don't intervene, something essential will be lost? Control often begins as protection, but when it becomes identity, it transforms into a prison. And perhaps the most important question isn't how to endure more, but what have you been silently trying to sustain on your own? There's something liberating that almost no one has told you. Something simple, practical, conscious, and at the same time profoundly aesthetic in the human experience. Not everything needs your intervention. Not everything demands your energy. Not everything requires your vigilance. But understanding this isn't as simple as it seems. And that's exactly where the next part of this story begins. There's an idea that sounds too simple to be taken seriously, but which, when finally understood, silently changes the way you live. Peace doesn't come from solving everything. It comes from knowing what not to solve. And this goes against everything you've learned about maturity, responsibility, and awareness. Because from a young age you were taught, directly or subtly, that being strong means coping, that being an adult means providing, that being conscious means predicting, anticipating, preventing chaos from happening. But nobody told you the psychological cost of this model. Nobody explained that there's a profound difference between being present and being overwhelmed, between being responsible and being controlling, between awareness and constant vigilance. Letting go of what isn't yours isn't an impulsive or irresponsible act. It's an internal gesture, almost invisible, but extremely practical. It begins when you realize that not every problem that comes to you is a personal mission. Some pains belong to others. Some processes need time, not your interference. Some situations call for silence, not solutions. And this doesn't diminish your empathy, your sensitivity, or your emotional intelligence. On the contrary, it demands a higher level of awareness, the ability to discern where your responsibility ends and where the invasion of internal boundaries begins. Many people live in a state of exhaustion because they confuse worry with duty. If something worries you, you believe you need to act. If something affects you emotionally, you assume you need to resolve it. If someone close to you is suffering, you feel it's your job to alleviate that pain immediately. But not all pain requires an immediate response. Not every decision needs to be made today. Not all tension demands action. Some require presence. Others require distance. Others simply require you to do nothing. And that, for a mind accustomed to control, seems almost unbearable. There's a simple yet profoundly transformative mental exercise that few people truly practice. When something arises, a problem, a conflict, an anxiety, ask yourself with radical honesty, is this my responsibility or just my concern? This question creates a small space between the stimulus and the reaction, a psychological space, a conscious interval. And in that interval, something begins to change. You realize that many things that drain your energy don't require your action, only your acceptance. And acceptance here is not resignation. It's clarity. When you begin to let go of what isn't yours, the body responds before the mind. The shoulders lower slightly. Breathing deepens effortlessly. The jaw relaxes. It's almost imperceptible, but real. The mind slows down because it no longer needs to sustain all possible scenarios. It stops running in loops of what-ifs. Clarity appears not because you thought more, but because you thought less. Excessive control creates noise. Letting go creates silence. And in silence, you see better. Letting go isn't giving up. It's not abandoning. It's not becoming cold or distant. Letting go is trusting that you don't need to carry the world on your shoulders to be worthy of peace. It's understanding, practically and consciously, that life continues to happen even when you're not in control. And, perhaps even more difficult, it's accepting that some things need to resolve themselves without your intervention so that you can finally rest inside. There's something almost poetic about it. The less you try to force order, the more space opens up for a natural balance. Perhaps the rest you seek isn't about solving more problems, organizing more thoughts, or rationally understanding everything. Perhaps it's about allowing some situations to unfold at their own pace, about accepting that not everything depends on you, about recognizing that your presence doesn't need to be accompanied by constant effort. But this understanding doesn't happen all at once. It's built little by little, in small internal choices, in daily micro-releases, in silent decisions not to intervene where you would have automatically intervened before. And it's precisely at this point that many people feel resistance, guilt, fear of losing control, and that's what we need to talk about in more depth shortly. Before we continue, I want to ask you something simple but important. If any phrase resonated with you, comment below with that exact phrase. It could be, "This isn't my responsibility," or "Letting go isn't giving up," or even, "I'm tired of carrying everything." If it resonated with you, write, "I let go," in the comments. This helps the video. But more importantly, it helps you become aware of something you may never have put into words before.